Hi everyone and welcome to my sewing room. Today we're going to get back into PE design and we're going to play around with the programmable stitch creator. My name is Rosemary and this is Enchanting Rosemary Sewing and Embroidery. So as I just said a minute ago, we are going to get into PE design and programmable stitch creator. In PE design, we have done layout and editing, and we have done the design center, but there are other windows in there that we haven't even yet explored, and one of them is called programmable stitch creator, which allows you to kind of create your own fill stitches that are going to go into the shapes that you draw in layout and editing. So let's go to our software and let's get started with that. Okay, so this is layout and editing in the PE design software, and today what we're going to do is we're going to come up here where it says options, and we're going to go to the programmable stitch creator. So select that and it'll open a different window on here, and this allows you to create your own stitches. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do a motif fill. So motif, we're going to go up here and it says new motif pattern. And when you do a motif, it puts this green arrow across the middle of the screen, and you can pull up. I like to think of it like a string that you're pulling around something. And remember, when you're creating a stitch, it's going to go from this side, go up and around, back up here, and then back over here, and then continue off. Just like on your sewing machine, when you're sewing a stitch from top to bottom, it always has a continuing stitch that goes around. So we can't just pull the string this way and then down this way and then over here and create a circle, because it has to continue. And you'll see this is the preview where it's showing that the stitch is going to go up and around and then up and around and then up and around. So it has to continue. So anyway, let's just hit new motif pattern and don't save that. And so in order to create a motif, I want to bring in something I can trace around. Unless you're really artistic and you can think of this yourself, you need to figure out what you're going to create. So if I go into view, I have a preview. I have open template here. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to click on this, and here's some of the stuff that brother just gives you for free that you can kind of fiddle around with and try and make something up with. I'm going to go down into the clip art file, and I'm going to pick an apple, just a really simple apple. And I want this to come down here so that I can continue. So that's a little dark. I won't be able to see what I'm trying to draw. So up here where it says modify template, delete, there's a sliding bar. And if I slide this bar over, see the way the apple gets really light, and that'll help me see my green arrow and my string that I'm going to pull around it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just click okay, I was in the view, and then I forgot I don't have an editing tool. So I'm going home and I'm going to use my select point tool. And then I'm going to click. See, I get a little black box. Now I can put this black box up here, and then I can click on another part of the pink string and pull it there. And that's why I think of it like a string, because I'm putting little clothespins everywhere I want the string to stop. And then I'm going to pull it up click here, up to here, and I'm going to pull down here. I'm not going to try and make this too detailed because remember that this is a motif stitch that's going to be in your software that you're going to use for an outline. It's not this big apple. It's a little teeny tiny millimeter size drawing that we're doing. So if I tried to put all that detail in it, it would be a mess. So we're going to keep this as simple as we possibly can. Now, I realized I have a grid on here and it's doing snap to grid. See the way it won't let me stop anywhere in between the two squares? So I'm going to go back to view and I'm going to take the guideline and the grid off. And to take the grid off, all I have to do is slide this all the way down to 0 and it'll be gone. And then I can put these wherever I want them to be. Put this up here. I don't know if I want this leaf in here. That's just going to make it more complicated. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it, just pretend the apple doesn't have the leaf. We're going to put it over like this. Now, this is the part that gets complicated. I can't pull this down and make it go this way. It's not going to work that way. And if I think of my stitching as coming from here and going around, and then coming back down this way to here and then back over itself to here, then I'll get an apple. So what I have to do is I have to grab this box and pull it over to this side. Now I have two pink lines. I have one here and one here where they pulled over and overlapped each other. So both of these have to be pulled down to shape the bottom part of my apple. And I could have done this the other way around where it just, where it came down this way and around and back down. But I like the double line to be on the simpler part of the apple. Now, normally I would do this very slowly with a lot more boxes right next to each other to make my apple look nice and round. But I'm trying to do a little quicker because I want to get to a few other things you can do with this programmable stitch creator. So I'm outlining. And you can see right here where I've created an apple. It's not beautiful, but it's not bad either. So once I've created this and I know it looks the way I want it to look by looking in the preview window right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say save as. It'll open the box in the motif patterns and I'm going to call this apple and save it like that. So that's a motif, and I'll show you how that looks when we get it all finished. So then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to say new fill or stamp pattern. So now we have an empty box, and I want to make kind of just like a crazy fill area. So I'm not going to open a template. I'm just going to kind of make something up. So let's just go home and use my drawing. And you only have one drawing tool here. So I've got the drawing tool and I am going to click. And you have to go all the way to the end. I'm going to make something really crazy here. Click, 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 click. Now, when I come here, I want to close this box so it makes a fill. Because you see in the preview box, there's nothing there. So I'm going to go here, 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 and then double click here. And I just created my own fill stitch. And if I don't like that fill stitch, I can come up here and get the select point and select my lines and then pull it down to whatever I want it to be. And you can't really tell if it's going to be a good fill stitch or not until you get ready, until you've actually went ahead and saved it. Let's see. So I'm going to say save as, and let's see, I'm just going to call this test 1 and save it. Oh. Okay, now I'm going to do something else before I go and show you what we created. I am going to go back to select. I have a region reset, a region engrave, and a region emboss. So if I hit the emboss and I click on it, oh, this did not close. So let's undo. Let's hit that select point and bring this up to the top. Then let's do region emboss. Undo. I think view, zoom. Let's come over here. See, I got a little opening right there. So I'm going to pull this down there. Okay. Now let's zoom all. Now let's try this again. Region emboss. Let's do that one and that one and that one. And then region engrave. Let's do that one. So you see it turns red and blue. So when I use the stamp tool, I can do an emboss or an engrave of my fill. Now, which will make a completely different dimension. So I'm going to do this. We're going to save as, we'll call it test 2. Oh no, not that. I see what I'm doing wrong. It's typing in the default size. Test 2. If I just say save, it puts in the default for me automatically, 7.5, which works for me. So let's hit save. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this. We're back in layout and editing, and I'm going to just draw a box. And that has got a decorative fill stitch in it. I'm going to tell it to do it as a motif stitch. And then once I choose motif stitch, I can come all the way over here to sewing attributes and click on the file right here. And then there's my apple that I just created. I'm going to say okay. And wow, those are little. Let's make them a little bigger. Maintain aspect ratio. There, those are a little better. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to use my zoom button and see so that you can see all my little apples going across there. I don't usually use motif fields for this purpose, but you can do it if you want to. So let's zoom out. Also, if I go to shapes and I pick a line tool and I click This is a curved line, so I'm going to just click left click, left click, left click, left click, left click, double click. I just made a line, selected it, tell it to do a motif stitch, and so now that's a motif stitch, so now I'm going to come over here and pick my apple and say okay. Now I just have a row of little apples going all over. Let's go home. Let's zoom down here. See how I've just created my own motif that I could do just about anything I want to do with that. So that worked out pretty good. So let's zoom all. Okay, so now let's choose this box that I drew before, and let's go into shapes and do a programmable stitch. And then I'm going to come over here to my sewing attributes. It should say now programmable fill. Hit the file. And I called this test, which means it should be down here on the bottom somewhere. Test 1. Okay. It's going to think about it for a minute. I don't know. Let's see. Let's zoom in. Home plus zoom. That's a really interesting fill that I created. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so then let's go back over here to the programmable fills. Let's choose this and go all the way down and choose the test 2 one and say okay. It looks pretty much exactly the same. But this is what, I don't know if I can get any closer to this. This is what engrave and emboss do. Emboss comes out as a big satin stitch, and engrave kind of pushes it down into it. So let's just say that I make this back to a regular fill stitch. So there's a regular fill. And then I'm going to go home and stamp emboss is up here in the top next to rotate, size, and everything. I'm going to hit stamp emboss. I'm going to input a stamp, and you'll see that it opens that same box. And then I could come over here and choose this weird stamp that I created. And then I could just stamp it into the, look at that. Is that crazy or what? So I could stamp it in there. And of course it doesn't make any sense. But if it was something like, for instance, an R for rosemary, Q, R, I could stamp that in there too. Sometimes when you're trying to create an embroidery, to try and embroider a letter over the top of something you've already embroidered just doesn't work. But if you emboss it or stamp it in there, then think of what you could do with it. Now let's do see the difference between the engrave and emboss. They're two different effects completely. And I can do that heart in blue or red. So stamp or emboss. This is what it looks like. So I don't use this very often, but it is a tool that's available to you that you can do. Okay, so we kind of fiddled around with that a little bit. So then let's go back to our stitch creator. And I'm going to say new decorative stitch pattern. Now this one is a little bit more complicated and I'm still learning it. But one of the things I figured out is you absolutely need a grid. And you need to click the guidelines so they connect to each other so you get a continuous running stitch instead of a instead of it jumping and cutting and jumping and cutting, because we're trying to do a fill. We don't want it to do that. So I put the guideline out so it'll connect. I'm going to open a template. Let's see. Let's go into quilting and open. Let's see. What can I do? I'm going to do this one. Open it. I'm going to get it as big as I can make it. And then I'm going to trace around this spool with the needle in it, which might be a little bit complicated, but let's see what we can do. Let's make the template a little duller. There. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to get my drawing line tool. And I want to do this so that it starts here and goes out here. So I'm going to click. Oh, shoot. I'm going to right click to make it let go. Modify template. I'm going to try and move this template over this way more. There. That way it can come out here and come out there. So let's try this again. Let's go home. I'm going to start here. And you can see there's my line right there. It's kind of hard to see with the grid here. And I'm going to go click here. Click here. We're going to go in and draw this line and then come back and draw this line. And then click, left click, left click, left click. Come up here, click here, click here. I'm trying to work out in my head what this is going to do. Click here, click here, click here, click here. Let's draw this eye of the needle in here. Come here, come here, come here. I think I'm going to go up here. It has to be a continuous line, so you have to go back over yourself a couple of times to create what we're trying to do. Let's go down this way. We're going to go this way, go this way, go this way. Up this way. Come this way, this way, this way. Then we're going to go straight back out where we started from. And then double click. See the spools that I made right there? I think those look pretty good. They're not a perfect idea, but at least it works and it keeps going all the way across. And it looks like there's a needle sticking in that spool of thread, doesn't it? Okay, so, and you could duplicate them and connect them to each other or whatever it is you need to do. The way that I would do that would be I would come back up here. I'm going to save this first. Let's do home, save as. Spool 2. Save. Okay. So now let's select this whole thing and let's make it smaller. And then I'm going to turn off my background so I can see what the heck I'm doing here. Use the red circle to rotate this. Now if I rotate it and move it up this way, then I need to bring this line that connects it down. So I'm going to do home and use my select edit tool and maybe bring that down to here. I'm not going to try and make this perfect or I'll be here all day. But anyway, you can see the line comes here. Now I'm going to select this, Control D, duplicates. Remember that. We're going to come down here and rotate this one this way. Move it this way. Now I want these two lines to come together. So I'm going to do the edit tool. I'm going to grab this box down here and I'm going to bring it up here. Now this is the reason why in this one you have to have the grid and the guidelines, because if I just put these next to each other here, they're not going to connect. But since I've got the guideline on there, when I bring this down here, let me go home and zoom in. Those should come together perfectly at the same corner and make a continuous running line. So that will work for me. And then I'm going to go back out to zoom all. And then I'm going to select this one. And I want this one to go out the same way that this one came in. And hopefully I have made a running spool fill. And this doesn't fill in the whole box. I have some blanks, so I'd have to work on it some more to see if I can't figure this out. My needle's a little bit wonky, but you understand exactly what I did to create this. So I'm going to go and I'm going to save as. I always forget to come back over here. Spool 3. And save. Okay, so now let's just minimize this, come back over here. I'm going to do new. Don't save that. Okay, so we're back where we were before. I don't know what size hoop I have here. Let's do design settings. 9.5 by 9.5. That's a pretty good one. Okay, so I am going to, first things first, I'm going to put a shape in here. So let's just put a star right here in the middle of the hoop. And I'm going to tell the star to not sew, not sewn, not sewn. Then I'm going to go home and I'm going to put a box. And I'm going to draw this box the same size as my hoop. Okay, so I still don't have the option to do a fill there. But if I select them both, then I've got this thing that says background fill. Okay, I had to go out and come back in again. My computer started doing something weird and I didn't figure it out. And I confess to you, I'm still learning about this background fill part of PE Design 11. I had to assign a running stitch under shapes. I had to do running stitch instead of not sewn for the outline stitch, not the fill. The fill we can still leave as not sewn, but the top, the star and the square had to be a running stitch for this to come on, this background fill button up here in the top. So I'm going to click on that and I get this look that I have right here. So I have decorative fill chosen, and so I'm going to hit, what are you doing? Oh, I have to click in here to show where I want the decorative fill to go. So now I got all these little cross hatches in there. So that's where the decorative fill is going to go. I'm going to hit next. And then I have my decorative fills, and you'll see in the menu, here's all the same ones that are in the luminaire. So you can do all sorts of different kinds of fills. If you have a stellaire like I have, and you can't do all the things that you can do with the luminaire, this is an option. You can kind of go through here and find some different fills and create different things. So where's the one that we just made? This one right here is the one that I made. That's the spool alone. This one right here is the 2 spools. And this is another one I created earlier when I was messing with it, where I have 4 spools. And I'm going to say OK. And there's my decorative fill that I created. I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to say OK. And there it is made. Now, you'll notice that if I hit plus, it outlines the 2 running stitches that I had here. So now that I've done this, I can actually select this one and say don't sew this now and turn that off. Hit the plus sign, select this one and select objects and don't sew this one because I don't want it to have that many not sewn. But it does outline the star as it goes back and around, so it still looks like the way I wanted it to. And if I come down here and I hit this, let's see if I can speed this up a little bit, make it go faster. You can see that it sews this without stopping. It doesn't have any of those little cuts in the knots. Unfortunately, it goes back over itself quite a few times, so I don't know. I'd have to probably sew this out to see if I like it. But it'll give you a little bit of idea of how the program Stitch Creator works, and I hope you learned something.
Oh, okay. So I hope you learned something in that today. That's a kind of a complicated program, and you got to have to play around with it a little bit to really get good with it. I wanted to show you what I did. I did embroider this out. I have to confess that I'm learning a little bit about doing the background fills. It's something that's new for PE Design 11 that you can do, and it went over the same stitches several times, so I'm not sure whether this would be something I'd really want to do a quilt with, but maybe if I made it larger, it might work a little bit better. But I just thought it did come out really pretty. You can actually tell that that's supposed to be spool thread with a needle in it, so I do like the way it came out, and I hope that you learned something today. I hope that you are still watching my video. I really, really like it when people contact me and tell me how much they're enjoying, how much they feel like the lessons I'm doing are teaching them a little bit more about either whether it's PE design or whether it's playing with your Still Air sewing machine or your Luminaire or even your baby lock machines. So keep on doing that, making comments, and keep watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.